Welcome to Real Easy English from BBC Learning English.
In this program, we have real conversations in easy English to help you practice listening and learn new words and phrases. I'm Beth.
And I'm Neil. In each episode, we talk in English about a different topic that you need for everyday speaking. If you want to read along, you can visit our website, bbclearningenglish.com. Hello, Beth.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. What are we talking about today?
Well, today's episode is all about family. We'll be talking about who is in our families and comparing them.
Okay, great. So, what do we mean when we say comparing our families, Beth?
Well, when we compare two things, we look at them and see if they are the same or different. And we can compare things in different ways, but we often do it with adjectives.
Okay, let's start the conversation.
So, Neil, how big is your family?
It's probably average, really. I have one sister, but she has 3 kids and I have 2 kids. So when we get together with my parents, there are a few of us. And it's not tiny. It's not huge.
Okay, yeah. I think my family is definitely smaller than yours because I don't have any brothers or sisters. I am an only child. So when I get together with my family, it's very small because I also only have one cousin and she is an only child as well. So my family's tiny.
Okay. And what is your family like? It's small, but what's it like?
It is small, but we're very close. So we see each other quite often. We are a bit silly. We like to go out and have food and play games. And we can be quite loud, even though there aren't many of us.
Okay. It sounds like you get on well with your family. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love spending time with my cousin, and she has 2 children. What about you? Do you get on well with your sister?
Yes, I get on well with my sister. We don't see each other very often because we don't live in the same place. But when we see each other, we have a nice time. We catch up and chat. So, Beth, we have used the expression get on well with someone. What does that mean?
Well, that means that you have a good relationship with them. So if you get on well with your sister, it means when you're together, you're happy, you're not fighting. It's easy to have good conversation. You don't really have any arguments. Maybe when you were a child, you didn't get on well with your sister. I don't know.
Yes, I think now that we are grown-ups, it's easier to get on well with your sibling. When I was a kid, maybe I was a bit mean to her.
Oh dear. So Neil, your sister has 3 children.
Yeah.
What are the ages of them?
Well, for a start, they're all boys.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that sounds very difficult.
And the oldest one is 17. And he has just done his driving test. It's difficult to believe because he's the oldest. He's always been the oldest, but now he's almost an adult.
And is he the oldest, including your children? So out of all the kids, he's the oldest?
He is, yeah.
So in my family, my cousin has 2 children, and they are 5 and 2. So
little ones.
Yeah, they are the youngest in the family, but I was the youngest in my family until they came along, and I am 32. So I was used to being the youngest, but I'm not the youngest anymore. Now we've got little ones.
Oh, well. Are you sad?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, let's quickly recap the vocabulary we learned in this conversation.
We learnt compare, which means to look at two things to see if they are the same or different.
Bigger and smaller, which are ways to compare the size of something.
Youngest and oldest, which are ways to talk about the age of someone or something.
And we looked at get on well with someone, which means to have a good relationship with them.
Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. Visit our websites for more activities and courses to help you with your English. bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll talk about food and some of our favourite meals to eat.
Delicious. See you then. Bye.
Goodbye.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty good, yes.
Good. What are we talking about today?
Well, today we are talking about food. In particular, we'll talk about our favourite foods and how often we eat them.
What an amazing topic. I have so much to say about food. You said how often. What do we mean by how often we eat something?
Good question. How often means how many times we eat our favourite food. So we might eat them every week, every day, or if we really like a food, we might eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, every meal.
So, Neil, what is your favourite food?
Well, that's a really difficult question, but I really like fish.
Me too. I was going to say that, but actually, I really love seafood. So I think I'd say any kind of dish with seafood in it, I absolutely love.
So how often do you eat seafood, Beth?
Well, not very often, actually. I have it when I go on holiday, and I have it in restaurants sometimes, but I don't really cook seafood at home. What about you? How often do you have fish?
Oh, probably a few times a week.
Really?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, we eat a lot of fish.
We sometimes have fish at home. I normally have it once or twice a week.
Right.
But yeah, I never have seafood at home, actually.
Yeah, okay. So what is your least favourite food?
Oh, I absolutely hate baked beans.
You hate baked beans?
I think they're disgusting. I can't even... The smell of them even makes me feel a bit sick.
Oh, okay.
So we've talked about the foods that we really like and the foods that we don't like. But in a general week, what do you normally cook?
Often we'll eat Indian curries, but also Italian pasta dishes or Spanish dishes, and then sometimes more traditional British roast dinner kind of thing.
Yeah. I think generally we have the same at home. Like, we eat a lot of food from different countries, but I have to say I usually cook quite a lot of pasta and quite a lot of rice at home in general, just because they cook really quickly.
So, Beth, you generally eat rice and pasta dishes. What does that mean, generally?
Well, we use generally and usually and normally for habits or things that we do a lot. So, for example, if I generally cook pasta or rice, that means maybe 5 times out of the 7 in a week, I would say.
Okay, so that's most of the time. If we use sometimes, we mean that we do it less than generally.
Yeah, sometimes might be 2 or 3 times a week. I guess it depends on what you're talking about. But for example, with me, I sometimes cook fish. Like I said, I have it maybe twice a week. So I would say that's sometimes.
Beth, you said that you hate baked beans. So do you ever eat baked beans?
Never. No, I can't stand them. So I never, ever have baked beans.
Well, never is something that we don't do. We just don't ever do it. I can't believe you don't like baked beans. Beans on toast is a classic.
It is, but no, not for me. Let's quickly recap the vocabulary we learnt during the conversation. We learnt often, which means we do something a lot. And we learnt how often, which we use to ask someone how many times they do something.
Usually, normally, and generally, which are all ways to talk about things we do a lot.
Sometimes, which we can use to talk about things we do, but not always or often.
And never. To talk about things we don't do, like eat beans, Beth.
Yes, just like I never eat baked beans. Ugh, horrible.
How are you today, Neil?
I'm very well, thank you, Georgie. What are we talking about in this episode?
Today is all about friends. We'll talk a bit about our friends and why they are important.
Great, let's get started.
So, Neil, do you have a lot of friends?
Yes, I do have quite a few friends. How about you?
Yes, I also have quite a lot of friends. I've lived in different places, so I have made friends in lots of different areas and times of my life.
So, Georgie, you said that you have lived in lots of places, and I know you have lived in Spain. So do you have lots of friends in Spain?
Yes, I have a few friends in Spain, but now that I live in London, it's quite difficult to stay in touch with them. But actually, one of them is coming to visit this weekend.
Ah, so you try to keep in touch with some of your friends. That means to keep contact with them, to make sure that you stay friends by speaking to them.
Yes, exactly. And if you have a lot of friends, it can be difficult to stay in touch with so many. What do you like to do with your friends, Neil?
Well, I like to talk to them mainly. So I like to meet them maybe in a pub or a restaurant, or we go to a sports match sometimes and we talk there and have a good time.
That sounds nice.
How about you?
Yes, I'm the same. During the week, I think a nice plan is to go out for dinner with friends. At the weekends, I like going for a walk or getting a coffee with friends.
You can do both of those at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes I meet friends, we get a coffee to take away, and then go for a walk around the park.
And are you happy about the number of friends you have, or would you like to have more or fewer?
I always like making new friends. If you start a new hobby or you move to a different place, there are always more people and new people to meet. I like making friends. What about you?
Yes, but I like to see my old friends. And if I make new friends, I know it's something that happens slowly, and that's okay. Now, we have used this word friends a lot, but there are other words for friends too, aren't there?
Yes, one is mate. I use mate a lot. We also use pal. So sometimes I refer to my friends that are girls as gal pals.
Gal pals, that's a nice expression.
So Neil, why are friends important to you?
Ah, yes. Good question. Friends are important, I think, because you can be yourself with your friends. You don't have to pretend if they're good friends because they know you as you are. And that's not the same everywhere that you go in life.
Yep, that's true.
Let's recap the language we learned during the conversation.
We learned mates and pals, which are other words for friends.
We heard keep in touch with, which means see or speak to someone regularly. We also say stay in touch.
And a few, which means more than two, but not many. So I have a few friends in Spain, but not many.
Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. Visit our website for more activities and courses to help you with your English. bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll talk about holidays and places we would like to go.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
How are you today, Georgie?
I'm pretty good, Neil, thank you. I'm happy that it's Friday.
Me too. So, today we're talking about holidays and our dream destinations.
Great, I love this topic. But can you explain what you mean by destination, Neil?
A destination is what we call a place we are going to, the place we would like to go to.
Okay, so if we are on a train to visit London, London is our destination. But we often use it when we're talking about holidays or special journeys.
That's right. So a dream destination is somewhere we would really like to go and travel on our holiday.
Okay, so where is your dream holiday destination, Neil?
I like two different kinds of holidays. I like interesting cities, interesting old cities like European cities, but I also like mountains and countryside and those kind of places like in South America.
Yes, I also have two different types of holidays that I like. If I want to relax, I usually want to be in the sun by the beach, but I also love to see new and interesting places, places that you can't see in your own country. Neil, where's your favourite place you've ever been to?
Oh, well, I really, really liked Japan when I visited Japan.
Okay, so if I go to Japan, what should I do there?
You should eat as much food as you can because the food is fantastic, and you can eat in a little noodle shop or you can eat in a big posh restaurant and it's all amazing.
That sounds so good, and I love food. Okay, so you said I should try some Japanese restaurants. What is this word should? What does it mean?
It means I think it's a good idea for you to do that. That's my advice to you.
Okay, so it's kind of like a recommendation in this case.
Yeah. So when you go to Japan, you should eat sushi. When you go to Japan, you should visit Kyoto to see Zen gardens. So how about you, Georgie? What's the best place you've ever been on holiday?
I really love Edinburgh in Scotland. I love it because it's very green. The city is very close to nature and it's very beautiful. The buildings are really beautiful.
Okay, so Edinburgh, Georgie. What could I do in Edinburgh?
Well, in August, for example, you could go to the Fringe Festival, which is a comedy and arts festival. So you could see some shows, or you could go for a walk in the national parks outside of the city, or you could go to see some of the museums they have. There's lots of things you could do.
Yeah, and when we use could, we're talking about things that are possible.
Yes, and that's different from should, because when I say you should do something, it means that it's a good idea or I'm giving you advice. But could, I'm just giving you some options, things that are possible for you to do.
Now, we don't always go to another country on holiday or even a different city, do we?
No, now it's actually quite popular to go on holiday inside your own country. And we have a word for this, don't we, Neil?
Yes, we do. It combines two words, the word stay and the word vacation, put them together, and you have staycation. And a staycation is a holiday actually in your house or near your house.
Have you ever done a staycation, Neil?
Yes, plenty of times. Often on a staycation, you might do day trips. So you go and visit places in the area, but come home in the evening. Now, the problem with holidays is they are expensive. We probably need to save up money if we want to travel to all these places, apart from the staycation.
Yes, we should save up some money, exactly. Let's recap the language we learned during the conversation.
We learned destination, which we use to talk about a place we are going to or we would like to go to.
Could, which we use to talk about something that is possible.
Should, which we use to talk about something that it's a good idea to do. This is advice.
And staycation, which is a fun word to talk about a holiday at or near home.
That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. Visit our website for more activities and courses to help you with your English. bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll be talking about work and jobs.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello, Beth. How are you?
I'm very well, Neil. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. What are we talking about in this episode, Neil?
Well, we are going to be talking about jobs and our careers.
Okay, so can you explain the difference between a job and a career?
Yes, so our job is what we do for work. So I work at BBC Learning English. It's my job. But career is a word we use to talk more about our work in the long term. So all of the jobs that we've had and the jobs that we might want to do in the future.
Okay, and also with career, it's a word we use to talk about the type of work we do. So you might have a career in teaching or a career in TV, for example. So, Neil, I know you work here at BBC Learning English, of course, but have you had any other jobs?
Oh, yes, I've had lots of other jobs. Before I worked at the BBC, I was a teacher, an English teacher. And before that, I had lots of jobs when I was a student.
Okay, so how long have you worked at the BBC for?
20 years, more than 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, so when you were a student and you had jobs, that was quite a long time ago.
It was ages ago, Beth, before the internet was invented.
Okay. And what jobs did you do when you were a student?
So when I was a student, I worked in a hotel. I worked in restaurants as a waiter. I worked in a fish and chip shop.
Did you?
Yeah.
How long did you work in a fish and chip shop for?
I worked in a fish and chip shop for a summer. And how about you, Beth? When did you start working at the BBC?
I have worked here for around 3 years. So I've been here since 2021. But I've been working in London for 6 years because I've been here since 2018.
So, Beth, you said that you have worked at the BBC since 2021. Since. What does it mean when we use since?
Well, we use since followed by a date or a point in time. And we use it to talk about when something started, but also it's something that is still true. So I have been here since 2021 and I still work here now, so it's still true.
Yeah, and that's different to for, isn't it? When you say, I've worked here for 20 years, we're talking about the length of time.
Exactly, and that can be something that is still true. For example, you've worked here for 20 years and you still work here now, but it also could be something in the past. So, for example, you said you worked in the fish and chip shop for a summer, and that summer has a length of time. It has a start and an end.
So, what is the funniest thing that's ever happened at work, Beth?
Well, when I was a teenager, I worked at a farm, and sometimes the goats would escape. So I had to run after baby goats, and I would have to pick them up and put them back But I got a little cuddle with a baby goat. So it was funny, but it was also very nice.
Ah, that's a nice thing to do in your job. Right, let's recap the words we've learned today. We had career, which means the jobs we've had over time.
Since, which we use to talk about the time when something started.
For, which we can use to talk about a length of time. For example, I've worked at the BBC for 20 years. That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more activities and courses to help you with your English on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll be talking about our habits and daily routines.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye. How are you today, Neil?
I'm very well, thank you, Beth. How about you?
I'm very good.
So, what topic are we talking about in this episode?
Okay, well, today's episode is all about habits and routines. Now, we talked about our favourite foods a few weeks ago, but today we'll talk about our meal times and routines for eating.
Sounds good. What do we mean by a routine, Beth? Is it different to a habit?
Well, they are similar, but a habit is something we do regularly. So, for example, I eat an apple and a banana most days.
Oh, very healthy.
Yeah.
A routine, though, is slightly different. It's usually more about the time that we do something and the way we do something. So, I have my breakfast at 6 a.m. every day.
Okay. You said you have your breakfast at 6 a.m. every day. What do you usually have to eat?
Well, usually I have something simple, a bowl of cereal, some toast with marmalade. How about you, Beth?
I usually have porridge.
And what about lunch? What time do you have lunch usually?
I normally have lunch at about 1 o'clock. What about you?
Yeah, the same. I don't like it at 12, that's too early. But by 2, I'm getting a little bit hungry and angry at the same time.
There's a word for that, Neil. So if you're hungry and angry, we can combine them and say hangry.
Yeah, so it's important to have regular meal times so you don't get hangry.
That's true. Now, you've just reminded me of another word, which is brunch. Now, that's a combination of the words breakfast and lunch. Do you ever have brunch, Neil?
I love brunch, especially at weekends.
Yeah. When I was at university, I used to have brunch pretty much every day. So I would meet up with my friends and we would go to a cafe and we would have brunch.
Beth, you said that you used to have brunch at university. Used to? What's that mean?
Well, used to is used to talk about a habit in the past. So something you did regularly in the past and don't do now. Now, another way of talking about past habits is to use would. So if you remember, I said I would message my friends and we would have brunch. So used to and would are both used to talk about past habits.
Do you ever miss a meal?
No. I think when I was at school many years ago, I used to miss breakfast because I wanted to stay in bed. What about you?
I don't like to miss meals because, like I said, I get hangry. But I guess I also used to miss breakfast when I was a teenager and I needed to sleep for a huge amount of time every night and get up really late.
Yeah, I think it's quite normal and quite interesting how your habits change as you get older. For example, missing meals and that sort of thing.
Right, let's recap the vocabulary we learned during the conversation.
We learnt routine, the time and way we usually do something.
We heard used to, which we use to talk about a habit in the past, and would, which we can also use to talk about past habits.
And my favourite, brunch, which is eating breakfast and lunch at the same time.
We also heard a really new word in English, which is a combination of two words, hungry and angry. It's hangry.
Thanks for joining us on Real Easy English. Visit our website for more activities and courses to help you with your English.
In the next episode, we'll be talking more about our hobbies.
See you then. Bye.
Goodbye. Hi, Georgie. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, thanks, Neil. How are you?
I'm fine.
What are we talking about this week, Neil?
Today, we're talking about hobbies. We'll talk about the sports we play in our spare time.
Okay, great. Can you explain what you mean by spare time?
Well, spare time means the time when we're not working and we don't have anything that we need to do.
Yes, and we can also use the phrase free time, which means the same thing. Okay, so Neil, do you play any sports in your free time?
Well, I do exercise, so I go running. That's not really a sport. I help my son training when he plays cricket, so that's kind of playing sport.
Very good.
And how about you, Georgie? Do you play sports?
I also don't play a sport, but I do like running, and I also do yoga as well.
Ah, yoga. When do you do yoga?
I usually do it during the week, but last weekend I did yoga as well. I like doing yoga at the end of a stressful week because I feel it makes me relaxed. So Neil, you said you like running. When do you like to go running?
I go running at lunchtime when I'm working from home. So it's nice to do some exercise in the middle of the day and go for a run and then feel alive again in the afternoon.
Why else do you like running?
Actually, I don't like running. I don't like the actual running, but after I go running, I feel great always. And I think, I should go running more, but I never want to.
Yes, I understand that feeling as well.
When did you last go for a run, Georgie?
Actually, I went running last weekend. It was a really sunny day and it felt great.
So, Georgie, do you have any plans to go for a run or maybe do yoga this weekend?
Not this weekend, but next weekend I have plans to go running with my friends.
Oh, wow. Do you talk and run at the same time?
Absolutely not.
Good, because that's like extra exercise.
That is too difficult, Neil. I can't run and talk to my friends. Okay, Neil, so we know that you go running and you like cricket, but are there any new sports that you'd like to try?
Well, Georgie, you do yoga. I'd like to take up yoga. But I have tried it in the past and it was just too boring.
Yoga is not boring. It's wonderful. Neil, could you explain the verb take up that you just used?
Yeah, we take up something. It means that we try something for the first time, a new hobby or a new habit, I suppose. So you can take up a sport or take up learning a new instrument.
I'd like to take up painting, I think. I think painting is a really nice way to boost your creativity. Let's recap the vocabulary we learned during the conversation.
We had next to talk about a future plan, like next weekend.
We used last to talk about a past plan, like last weekend, last month, last week. It's usually the most recent.
And we had take up, which means start a new hobby.
Yes, and I'm going to take up painting, which is exciting. Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. Visit our website for more activities and courses to help you with your English. bbclearningenglish.com. Next time, we'll talk about social media.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye! Hi, Neil.
Hi, Georgie. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
What are we talking about today, Neil?
Well, today we're talking about social media and how much we use it.
Well, I use social media all the time, so I have lots of things to say.
Great. Okay, Georgie, so you said you use social media a lot. Why do you like it?
Well, the reason I like it is actually the reason I dislike it as well. I use it when I'm bored. It can be very entertaining, especially TikTok. For example, the videos I watch are very fun and entertaining. I like that about it, but it's also something I hate because it can be very addictive and you can waste a lot of time watching TikTok videos. Neil, do you watch TikTok videos?
I try not to be honest, because I'm too old.
You're never too old for TikTok videos.
But I always think I'm using it too much. Do you think you use social media too much, Georgie?
I think definitely I use social media too much.
Okay, Georgie, you used the word definitely. Tell us more about definitely.
Yes, well, definitely means that something is certainly the case. If you definitely do something, there is no doubt that you did it. You certainly did it.
Yeah. So what do you use social media for? You said you watch videos, but anything else?
The main reason, I think, is to stay in touch with my friends. This was definitely true when I lived in Spain. It was a good way for me to see what my friends in England were doing. I also posted things myself, so it was a way to show everyone else what I was doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, what do you use social media for?
Well, I like messaging apps mainly and group chat so that I can catch up with friends who live far away that I can't actually see in person.
Yes, I also use it for that. Neil, you just used the verb catch up with. Can you explain that a bit more, please?
Yeah, so if you catch up with someone, it means you speak to them, you contact them, and you find out what they've been doing in their life. Find out what activities or what changes in their lives have happened.
Yeah, when you catch up with someone, it brings you up to date with their life and what they've been doing since you last saw them.
So, Georgie, you said you think you use your phone too much for social media. Do you have any plans to use your phone less?
I would love to use my phone less, but if I'm being realistic, I think I will probably continue using my phone in the same way. It's just too difficult to reduce the screen time. It's so addictive. But maybe in the future I will put those limits that your phone can put to help me reduce my screen time.
Georgie, you used words like maybe and probably, and we use these when we're not sure or not certain if we are going to do something.
Yes, so maybe I will use my phone less. Maybe I will continue using my phone in the same way. Probably I will continue using my phone in the same way.
Well, Georgie, it sounds like you use your phone a lot. Maybe you should have a break or just relax a bit.
Yes, Neil, I think you're right. Let's quickly recap the words and phrases we learned during the conversation.
We had maybe, which we use to talk about something that is not certain.
Probably, which means most likely.
Definitely, which we use to say something is certain.
And catch up with, talking to someone you haven't seen for a long time.
Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. Remember, you can find more programs to help you with your English at bbclearningenglish.com. Next time, we'll talk about journeys and how we get to work.
See you then. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Georgie. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Neil. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
What's today's conversation about, Neil?
Today, we're going to talk about travel. We talked about holidays in another episode, but today we'll talk about everyday travel and compare our journeys to work.
So, Neil, what is your journey to work like?
Well, because we live in London and it's a big city, it's quite long, but I get a bus to a tube stop. The tube is the underground train. And then I get the tube to near the BBC and then I walk.
Nice. I walk to work. I don't like using the tube, the underground train, because there's so many people on it. I prefer to get some fresh air in the morning.
Ah, you walk to work. That's interesting in London. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your walk to work.
Well, my walk starts with walking along some streets towards a park, and then I walk across a park, and then I walk through some more streets because there is a little bit of time between the park and the office, and then I arrive at the office.
Very nice. So you don't like public transport?
I use it sometimes when there's an emergency, like if it's raining or if I don't have time. But if I have time, I like to walk to work.
And how long does your journey take?
My journey takes me 1 hour if I walk and 30 minutes if I take the tube.
That's pretty good for London.
What about you?
My journey takes at least an hour, sometimes more.
And Neil, you have to get a bus and a train. What's your journey like?
Well, it can be good, but sometimes there's traffic jams on the roads, and so the bus can take a long time. But once I get onto the tube, it's usually okay as I travel across London.
Oh, Neil, can you explain what we mean by traffic jam?
Yeah, so a traffic jam is when there are too many cars and buses on the road, and so the traffic can't move very quickly or can't move at all.
Oh yeah, traffic jams are so rubbish. Are there times of the day when there are more traffic jams?
Yes, so during rush hour is when most people are going to work, so the roads are busier. And also if it's the school run time, so lots of people on the roads taking their kids to school, then the bus journey takes a long time.
Okay, so that's in the morning and in the afternoons.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Georgie, your journey to work sounds nicer than mine, probably more relaxing.
Yes, not when it's raining though.
Let's recap the words we learned during the conversation.
We had towards, travelling in the direction of.
Across, travelling from one side to the other.
Rush hour, a time when a lot of people are moving around the city, usually for work or school.
And an expression for something I hate, traffic jam, which we use to talk about a big delay when you're driving.
Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. Visit our website for more activities and courses to help you with your English. bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll talk about the news.
See you then. Bye.
Goodbye. So, Beth, how are you this week?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you, Neil?
I'm very well, thank you. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about how much we follow the news.
The news. Okay, so what do we mean by follow the news?
So when we say follow the news, it means that you are interested in the news. So you might read it on your phone, listen to it on the radio, or watch it on TV quite regularly.
Yes, and you can also follow sports, can't you? So if you like a particular, for example, football team, you might check your phone a lot to find out the score, to follow and see how they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So, Neil, do you follow the news?
Yes, I think it's difficult not to follow the news. First thing in the morning, I look on my phone to see if anything big has happened overnight. And then I check a lot during the day just to see what's happening. So I do follow news. How about you?
Yes, I'm the same. So I get notifications on my phone throughout the day. But sometimes I find that that's a little bit too much. Sometimes you need a break when you're working and you don't want to see the news all the time. And my phone does notify me a lot about the news.
Yeah, I think you can have too much news and it can be not very good for you to read lots of usually quite bad news.
Yes, definitely. So why do you like to follow the news even though it can be too sad?
That's a very good question. I think it's a bit of a habit. It's a bit addictive. And I think we sometimes feel like we need to know what's happening, even if we have actually no control over what is happening.
Yeah, I completely agree, because even though I get notifications and I read the news, I sometimes feel like I still don't know enough about what's going on, because there's so much information out there and so many different ways to get the news that it's not enough to just read one article. There's so much information that you want to understand.
So, Beth, we work at the BBC.
We do.
It's a news organisation. Have your news habits changed since you started working at the BBC?
Yes, I think they definitely have. I think I probably pay more attention to the news now than I did in the past. And for example, I already knew some information about certain topics, but now I want to learn even more. So I try to pay more attention to things that maybe I wasn't as interested in the past. What about you? Does working at the BBC mean you pay more attention to the news?
Well, I used to be a journalist at the BBC, so probably I used to pay more attention or follow the news more than I do now, because now I make these programs about English.
Maybe it's good that you don't follow the news as much as you did, because it's not always good.
It's not. It's often bad news. Okay, let's recap the vocabulary we learned during the conversation.
We had follow the news, which means to be interested in the news.
We used to, and to means more than is needed of something. So, I watch too much news.
We also had enough, which means as much as is needed of something. So, if you think you watch enough news, you don't need more and you don't need less.
And we've had already, which means before now.
Yes, I said that before I worked at the BBC, I already followed quite a bit of news. And I can't believe it is already the end of this episode. And it's the end of the series.
Yes, that's sad news. So we will be back with more easy English podcasts for you. But for now, you can find lots more activities and courses to help with your English on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Thank you for listening. See you soon.
Bye. How are things, Beth?
I'm very well, thank you, Neil. How are you?
Oh, I'm a little tired. I didn't sleep very well last night. And today's episode is all about sleep. We'll be talking about our sleep habits and also our dreams.
Lovely. So, Neil, you said that you didn't sleep well last night, so that's not so lovely. Does that happen very often?
It happens all the time, Beth. I don't sleep very well.
Oh dear. How many hours do you sleep at night, Neil?
I think probably 6.5 hours.
Really?
How about you?
Well, if I sleep less than 8 hours, then I'm exhausted. I really like to sleep quite a lot.
Ah, you are exhausted. What does exhausted mean, Beth?
It means that you are really tired.
Yes.
Like you after last night because you didn't sleep very well. Are you exhausted?
I am, Beth. I am absolutely exhausted.
What time do you usually go to bed, Neil?
About 11. I go to bed about 11.
I usually go earlier, but about 10 o'clock.
And do you have dreams? Do you dream often?
Yeah, I do, but I find it quite hard to remember my dreams. But sometimes I have nightmares and then they are easier to remember. So I might wake up in the middle of the night and feel a bit scared or worried.
Can you tell us about a strange dream that you've had?
Yeah, I had a weird dream a couple of nights ago. I was at my auntie's house in the kitchen. And then suddenly the floor was very wet and there were 3 robbers that were going to come and open the front door. So I had to run across the wet kitchen and lock the front door. It was a bit scary and weird.
Yeah, that sounds like a really scary dream.
Yeah, so a scary dream we can call a nightmare.
So I had a nightmare, a bad dream the other night. And I was in a foreign country, I think somewhere like Italy, a European place, and I couldn't find my family. And I was running around the streets, trying to find them, and I couldn't find them. But then, after a while of looking around the streets, I saw people in my family, and I felt much better.
So it sounds like it started as a nightmare, but then it kind of went into a dream.
Yeah, it was just a normal, happy dream by the end.
Good. Well, I noticed there that you used the past simple and the past continuous to describe your dream. You said, I was running around, which is the past continuous. And then you said, I found them, which was the past simple. And this is really common language that we use when we're describing things in the past, like dreams. So we've talked about how long we sleep for, and we've talked about dreams and nightmares, but I have a big question for you, Neil. Do you snore? You do.
That is snoring. Do I snore? I don't think I do. but my wife says that I do.
Oh, so you do snore?
No, I've never heard myself snore. Let's have a look at the language we learned in this conversation.
We learnt nightmare, which is a bad or scary dream.
We heard exhausted, very tired.
And we learnt a way to talk about dreams using the past simple and the past continuous. For example, you dreamt that you were running around trying to find your family, and then you found them.
I did. Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. If you liked this, there are lots more programs to help you with your English on our website, like English in a Minute, where we explain one language tip in 60 seconds. Visit bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll talk about our favourite films.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
How are you today, Neil?
I'm very well, Georgie. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you, as well.
So, Georgie, what are we talking about in today's episode?
Today's episode is all about films and television. We'll talk about our favourite movies and shows.
Great, let's get started.
Okay, Neil, so what kinds of films do you like?
I like foreign films, films that are not in English, because I like stories from other countries. What about you?
I like two kinds of films. One type of film I really like is films that you can learn from. And the other type of film is films that you can escape from reality. So usually quite silly films or fantasy films.
Okay, do you have a favourite film?
Yes, I do. I really love the Harry Potter series.
So, Georgie, can you tell us about your favourite film, the Harry Potter film you mentioned?
Yes, so you want to know about the plot, which is what happens in the film. So Harry Potter is all about a boy who discovers that he is a wizard. That is someone who does magic. And he goes to a school for magic called Hogwarts, and he meets his best friends, Ron and Hermione, who are other characters in the film. And he spends a lot of his time trying to escape a dark wizard called Voldemort. And it's very dangerous. It's a great film.
Wow, it sounds like there's lots of interesting characters in these films.
Yes, very evil characters and also really nice characters.
So, Georgie, you talked a lot about your favourite film, Harry Potter, and the grammar you used to describe the film was present simple. So, for example, you said the film is about a boy who discovers that he is a wizard and he goes to a school, a special school for wizards, and he makes friends with Ron and Hermione. All present simple.
Yes, that's right. We use the present simple to describe the plot of a story, like a book or a film. We also use the present simple to tell stories sometimes, things that happened to us in the past, which is interesting. What about you? What's your favourite film?
Well, I think my favourite film is from when I was a kid, and it's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wow, I haven't seen that.
It's very old, but it's got Indiana Jones, and he was my hero when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Why was he your hero?
Because he's all about action and adventure and catching bad guys.
Oh, interesting. See, I'm not a big fan of action and adventure.
So, Georgie, do you watch lots of movies?
I actually don't, because I have quite a short attention span. I actually prefer to watch TV or series. What about you?
Yeah, again, I think there's so much choice these days. Sometimes, actually, I watch nothing because I don't know what to choose. But sometimes I really get into a TV series and yeah, watch it all very quickly and talk about it a lot.
That's called binge watching. How do you watch these series?
On TV, but, I stream them like everybody these days.
So you just use the word stream. You stream TV shows and movies, and that means watching films or TV using the internet. You can watch things whenever you want when you stream things.
Okay, let's look again at the vocabulary we learned during the conversation.
We learned plot, which means the story of a film, TV program, or book. So what happens?
Character. That's a person in a story.
And stream. Watch a film or program online.
And we learned how to use present simple to talk about what happens in a film.
For example, Harry Potter goes to a magic school called Hogwarts and meets two best friends.
Thanks for listening to Real Easy English. You can find more easy conversation on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll be talking about pets.
Bye for now.
Bye. Hi, Neil. How are things?
Very good, thank you. How are you, Georgie?
Yes, I'm pretty good, thank you as well. So, Neil, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about animals. We'll be talking about pets.
Okay, Neil, so do you have any pets?
No, I don't have any pets, but I know you do, Georgie.
Yes, I do. I have a black dog called Raffi.
Raffi?
Yeah.
Did you choose the name?
Partly, but it was a decision we made as a family.
Did you have pets as a child?
Yes, I did. We used to have cats, actually. We started with cats, and then we got a dog, and then we also had hamsters. What about you, Neil? Did you have pets?
No, we didn't have pets when I was young. Oh, I did have a goldfish called Gilbert. But then later on, when I was a teenager, my parents got a cat and a dog.
Wow. Did you have a good relationship with Gilbert?
I don't remember Gilbert, sadly. But we had a cat that I liked very much. And I never really liked dogs, I'm afraid.
So, Neil, you don't have any pets now, and you said you don't like dogs, but will you ever get one?
No, Georgie, I don't think so. I will never get a dog.
That's okay. I mean, they're not for everyone. What was your cat like?
The cat made me feel very calm because she sat on my lap and purred.
You just used the word purr. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, purring is the noise that cats make. Not meow. Meow is meow. Purring is... And the cat made that noise and made me feel calm.
Neil, that was a really good purr sound. I would say it was perfect.
So, Georgie, what was your first dog like?
My first dog was really lovely. I actually used to say that she was my best friend. And we actually have a common expression to describe dogs, which is man's best friend. Man here means human, so human's best friend. That's because dogs are usually quite loyal.
Okay, so Georgie, we've talked about dogs and cats, those kind of pets, and hamsters and goldfish. But have you ever thought about getting an exotic pet, like a snake?
No, not really. When I think of pets, I think of fluffy animals with fur. But I do have a friend that got a scorpion recently, which I really don't understand. Would you ever get an exotic pet?
No, absolutely not. I think I would be scared of an exotic pet,
Yes.
to be honest.
Yeah, they just seem dangerous.
Let's recap the vocabulary we learned during the conversation. We had ever, which means at any time. And you asked me, Georgie, will I ever get a dog?
We've had never, which means not at any time. So, Neil, you said you will never get a dog.
We heard man's best friend, which is a common expression to describe dogs.
And purring, the noise a cat makes when it's happy.
That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. You can find more programs and courses to improve your English at bbclearningenglish.com.
In the next episode, we'll talk all about schools.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
How are you today, Neil?
I'm very well, thank you, Beth. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What is the topic of our conversation today?
Well, today, Beth, we're talking about schools. We'll talk about our favourite subjects and what qualifications we have.
Okay, Neil. First, can you explain the word qualifications?
Yes. A qualification is an official record that you have successfully done an exam or training for something. So, for example, you can receive a qualification in speaking English if you pass a certain exam.
Okay, great. So, Neil, what qualifications did you do at school?
Well, I took all of the normal exams we do in the UK, GCSEs, and then A-levels. These are school exams, and then university degrees. How about you?
Yeah, I am the same. I went to school in the UK and did all of the same exams, probably that you did. Did you like school?
Yes, I did like school. I think I just like being with my friends, and I thought most subjects were quite interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm the same.
What were your favourite subjects, Beth?
I really liked English, which sounds quite predictable because now English is part of my job. But I also quite liked textiles, which was a subject all about how to make clothes, and I made a hat. So it was quite a practical subject, and I enjoyed that.
Do you still wear the hat?
I do not. It was not a good hat. What was your favourite subject?
I also liked English, but I think my favourite subject was history.
Okay, what about your least favourite subject?
That's easy. Maths. I hate maths.
You still hate maths?
I still hate maths. So, in this conversation about school, we used words like quite, very, and really. Quite good means a little bit good. Very good and really good mean a lot.
So, for example, Neil, I quite like history, but you really like history. You liked it a lot at school, whereas I liked it a bit. So, did you not like maths because you weren't very good at it?
Yes, I think I was really bad at maths, and I didn't like it because I found it very hard. How about you?
I quite liked maths. I don't think there was a subject that I didn't really like.
So, Beth, it sounds like you were good at everything at school and worked hard. So, do you think you were a nerd?
Well, a nerd is an informal word for somebody who is very good at school. So, was I a nerd? Well, I did enjoy school and I worked hard. And one time my friend and I asked our teacher why we hadn't been given full marks for a presentation. And then she said, "Oh, I'll just give you full marks." I think that was probably quite a nerdy thing to do. So maybe.
That's very nerdy, Beth.
let's look at the vocabulary we learned during the conversation. We had qualification, a record that you have completed an exam or a course.
We had quite. This usually means a little.
Very and really are both used to mean a lot. So, for example, I'm very good at maths.
And nerd, which is an informal word for someone who is good at school, like you, Beth.
Thanks. And thanks for listening to Real Easy English. We'll be back next week to talk about our weekend plans.
Until then, you can find more programs to improve your English on our website. Why not try some of our dramas and stories? Visit bbclearningenglish.com.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.
How are you, Neil?
I'm well, thank you, Georgie. How are you?
I'm pretty good too, thank you. I'm very excited for the weekend.
Oh, really? Well, today we're talking all about the weekend. We're going to talk about what we plan to do at the weekend.
Great, let's start.
So, Georgie, do you have any weekend plans?
Yes, I do have plans. I'm going to visit my parents at the weekend, so I'm going to get the train to my hometown. What about you?
I don't really have any special plans, but I might spend lots of time doing sport with my kids.
Nice. Which sports?
Cricket in the summer and football as well.
Nice. So that's what you usually do?
That's what I usually do. I usually spend most of the weekend taking my kids to sport.
Do you like it?
I really do. I really do like it. It's fun to watch them trying their hardest.
Oh, nice. Is there anything else you'd like to do this weekend?
Well, I might meet up with a friend and we might go for some food or maybe just a drink, or we might go for a walk or something.
Nice.
And how about you, Georgie? What do you plan to do when you get home?
Well, we have a lunch on Saturday and we live in the countryside, so we'll probably go for a walk with the dogs and we're likely to go to the pub as well.
Is this a typical weekend for you?
It's not, because I don't usually go home to see my parents. Most weekends I stay in London, I meet some friends. Yeah, so this is not a typical weekend, but it's nice to visit my parents.
What are you looking forward to?
This weekend?
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to spending time in the countryside. When I'm in London, I really miss the peace and quiet, and I miss my dog. So I'm looking forward to seeing my dog.
And it's good to get some fresh air.
Yes, exactly.
So, Georgie, you said you are looking forward to being in the countryside.
I did.
And looking forward to means that you're excited about something you're going to do in the future.
Exactly, yes. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing my dog.
Is your dog looking forward to seeing you?
Yes, I'm sure he is. So, Neil, I have quite clear plans. I know what I'm going to do this weekend. And to talk about plans like that, we usually use be going to or the present continuous. So I said, I'm going to visit my parents at the weekend. And sometimes we shorten going to gonna when we're speaking quickly.
Yeah. Now, your plans are certain. Mine are not so certain. So I used might and may. I said I might meet my friend, I may go for a meal, or I may go for a drink. It means I'm not completely sure.
Well, Neil, I'm sure whatever you do this weekend, you'll have a nice time. Okay, let's look at the vocabulary we learned during the conversation.
We learned might, which we use to talk about possible plans. I might meet my friend.
Going to, which we use to talk about future plans that are a little bit more certain. So I'm going to visit my parents this weekend.
And looking forward to, which means to be pleased or excited that something is going to happen.
That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. But I'm looking forward to the next episode when we'll talk about saving the planet.
If you can't wait, you can find lots of courses, programs, and activities on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Hello, Neil. How are you today?
Hi, Beth. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have just got back from holiday and it was very hot. And today we're talking about the environment. We'll talk about climate change and what we are trying to do to help.
Okay, Beth. Can you explain the phrase climate change, please?
Yes, so climate change is what we call changes to the world's weather patterns. So, for example, the general temperature, rainfall, that kind of thing. And in particular, with climate change, we mean changes to the weather that are caused by human activity.
So, Beth, are you worried about climate change?
Yes, definitely. I do think that it's a big problem. The world is getting hotter or the weather is changing quite a lot. I know that in a lot of countries at the moment in the winter, it's much hotter than it used to be. And this affects people, it affects animals and plants, all sorts of things.
And it's worrying for the future generations, isn't it? So children and future grandchildren have to live in this world. And what kind of world might it be?
So, Neil, what do you try to do to help climate change?
Well, I ride my bike whenever I can. I try not to make journeys in the car that I don't really need to. I use public transport when I can. I also try not to fly, but that's mainly, to be honest, because I don't like flying. How about you, Beth? What do you do?
Well, I try to not eat too much meat. I might have something like chicken or fish maybe once or twice a week because I know that animal consumption, so eating meat, does contribute to climate change.
Now, Beth, you told me you are getting solar panels. Is that right?
I did, yeah. So I think we're going to have 12 put on the top of our house, and that will bring our electricity bill down, and it helps the environment because it's using energy from the sun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a nice eco-friendly plan you have.
It is, yeah. Neil, is there anything else that worries you about the environment?
Yes. I'm worried about pollution. The air in cities is very dirty, and we live in London. And sadly, some schools are right next to busy roads, and the children have to breathe polluted, dirty air. And it can be really bad for their health. It can cause problems with breathing. So, Beth, is there anything else about the environment that worries you?
Yeah, so obviously we all know that there's a lot of plastic in the ocean and rubbish around us generally. But with plastic, it's so hard to get rid of it. It doesn't go away on its own unless you recycle it. And a lot of animals are getting caught up in plastic fishing nets. They're swallowing plastic. So this is a really big problem.
And do you recycle? Do you use things more than once?
Yeah, so I try and reuse things if I can. And yeah, we recycle plastic, metal, card. I have a reusable water bottle as well, and a reusable coffee cup. Let's recap the vocabulary we learnt during the conversation. We learnt climate change, which is what we call the changes in the world's weather patterns caused by human activity.
We heard eco-friendly, an adjective we use to describe something that helps the environment.
Recycling collecting rubbish to use again.
Pollution, damage caused by harmful chemicals, for example, in the air.
And public transport, travel by bus or train, for example, to be more eco-friendly.
And that's it for this episode of Real Easy English. Don't forget to listen to our other programs to help you improve your English. Visit bbclearningenglish.com.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Hi, Neil. How are things?
I'm very well, thank you, Beth. How about you?
I'm very good, thank you. Now, in today's episode, we are going to talk all about us.
Yes, that's right. We'll help you learn to talk about yourself, your feelings, and your personality.
Okay, so Neil, what do we mean by personality?
Well, we use the word personality to talk about the type of person we are. So how we behave, how we feel, how we think. For example, we can have a warm personality or a friendly personality.
Okay, so Neil, how would you describe yourself? What kind of personality do you have?
Ah, that's difficult, Beth. I think I'm quite calm, laid back maybe. I don't get too upset or angry very easily. How about you, Beth? What's your personality?
I think that when I first meet people, I'm quite shy. I'm a bit quiet and I don't say much and maybe feel a bit nervous. But as soon as I get to know somebody, I am much more confident and then I'm very chatty and talkative. So then I do talk a lot.
Okay, Beth, so can you tell me what your interests are, what you like doing?
Well, I really like reading. I read quite a lot and I listen to audiobooks as well. I find lots of different topics interesting. And I also love going to the theatre. I find that really exciting. What about you?
I really like spending time with friends, chatting, having a laugh. And I really like live music too.
So, Neil, you said you like going to watch live music. Why do you enjoy that?
Yes, I get really excited to see a new band that I like, that I've heard and I haven't seen before. And I think it's also really exciting to hear live music because it exists just then, that moment, and it's never repeated.
Yeah, that's kind of why I love going to the theatre. It's special because it's just one performance. Anything could happen and it's really exciting to just be there in the moment. Now, when you're with your friends, I know that you laugh quite a lot. Would you say that you have a good sense of humour?
Maybe, yes, I do. I like laughing. And I think I like to see the funny side of things in the world.
So usually everybody has a sense of humour. It just means the kind of things that you find funny.
Yeah. And Beth, I remember once you told me you and your friend have a secret language.
We do. It's very silly. She made it up when she was a child. And she taught me it, so sometimes we have secret conversations and it's very silly and we find it very funny. I would say I have a silly sense of humour.
Well, Beth, I've learned a lot about you today. Shall we have a look at the vocabulary we used during our conversation?
Yes. So we had personality. That is the type of person you are.
We've had sense of humour, the types of things that make you laugh.
And throughout the conversation, we have used adjectives that end in ed and ing. For example, Neil, you are excited to watch live music because you find the live music exciting. We use adjectives that end with ed, like excited and interested, when we mean our feelings. You are interested in something. And we use adjectives that end in ing to talk about the thing that gives you that feeling. For example, you find live music exciting, and I find reading books interesting.
That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. If you want to learn more about how to talk about yourself, try one of our free Easy English courses. You can find them on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time on Real Easy English, we'll talk about a very British topic, the weather.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Beth. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Neil. How are you?
Well, the sun is shining today, Beth, so I'm very happy. What are we talking about in today's episode?
Well, funnily enough, we are talking about the weather.
Excellent. In the UK, we love to talk about the weather because it changes a lot.
It does. It can be raining and then sunny, all sorts of temperatures in just one day.
But what's the weather like today?
Well, today it's sunny, there are blue skies, it's really nice. But later on, it's supposed to get very hot, boiling.
Boiling. Boiling is water that's 100 degrees. It has those bubbles in it. But we use boiling also to talk about very hot weather.
Do you like it when it's boiling, Neil?
No, I don't like it when it's boiling. I like it when it's warm and sunny, but if it's boiling, that's too hot for me.
I would agree. What sort of weather do you like?
I like it when it's sunny. I don't mind if it's cold on a sunny day. It's fine for me.
Yeah, we have that in the winter quite a lot here. It might be blue sky, sunshine, but freezing, really cold.
Freezing. Freezing is literally 0 degrees when the water turns into ice. But also we use freezing just to mean that something is very cold.
Yeah, so for example, if you forget your coat, then you might be very cold. You say, oh, it's freezing, but actually maybe it's 10 degrees outside.
Yeah. I went camping at the weekend, Beth.
Ooh, very nice.
The weather is very important when you're camping.
It is. How was it?
It was warm and sunny in the daytime, and at nighttime, the temperature dropped. It felt freezing. It wasn't freezing, but it felt very, very cold.
Yeah, that happens when you go camping in the UK. Did it rain?
It didn't rain. I was very lucky. There was only one short shower.
You had a shower?
No, I was camping.
You were dirty.
But we can use the word shower to mean a short time of rain.
Yeah, we often hear about showers on the weather forecast. They say there will be showers today, which means rain on and off.
In the UK, the weather is very important for our plans, especially in the summer. So, Beth, do you have any plans? What are you doing this weekend?
Well, I am meeting some friends, and the weather will be important because if it is sunny and warm, then we will go for a walk. But if it's raining, we might stay inside. What about you?
Well, my son plays cricket and he has a match at the weekend. But if it's raining, he won't play cricket because you can't play cricket in the rain. Well, hopefully it won't be too hot later because we don't like boiling weather, do we, Beth?
No, definitely not.
Let's look at the vocabulary we learned during the conversation. We had boiling, which we use to say that it's very hot.
Freezing, which we use to say that it's very cold.
Showers, rain for short amounts of time.
And we learnt a way to talk about possibilities using if. For example, if it's sunny this weekend, I'll go for a walk.
That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. If you want more programs from BBC Learning English, try our Learning English Stories podcast, where we tell classic stories and dramas in English to help you learn. Search Learning English Stories on your podcast app or visit our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
And next time we'll talk about cooking.
See you then.
Bye.
Hi, Beth. How are things this week?
Things are good, Neil. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Today, we're talking all about cooking. We'll talk about what we like to cook, as well as our favourite recipes.
Recipes. Can you explain the word recipes, Neil?
Yes, a recipe is a list of instructions for how to make certain types of food.
Okay, great. Let's get started then. So, Neil, do you enjoy cooking?
Yes, I do enjoy cooking. When I cook, I find it relaxing. How about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I cook quite a lot, but I really enjoy it when I can be in the kitchen with music or a podcast on and really relax and spend time making food.
What's your favourite thing to make?
I quite like making stir fries because they're quick and easy. There's lots of different ingredients and flavours you can use. But I also quite like cooking fish. I've got some good fish recipes.
Ah, okay.
What about you?
I like to cook a roast dinner.
Very British.
Yes, on a Sunday. Let me tell you how to do roast chicken.
Okay, give me the recipe.
Okay. Take a chicken and put garlic and rosemary and lemons inside. Then boil some potatoes, not too long, and put everything in the oven and roast it with some vegetables for about an hour and 15 minutes.
Sounds really good.
Okay, Beth, I want to hear about your fish recipe.
Well, there's one I like which is with cod. So you put the cod in a pan with stock, creme fraiche, and tarragon. That's it. It's really simple. There's only 4 ingredients, but it tastes really delicious.
Sounds amazing.
How does your chicken recipe taste, Neil?
It tastes fantastic, I have to say. I think especially because of the gravy. And the gravy is a sauce made from all of the juices from the chicken and the vegetables.
I love gravy. I use gravy on my bangers and mash.
Bangers and mash. What's that?
Bangers and mash is another British recipe, which is sausages and mashed potato. The sausages are the bangers and the mash is the mashed potato.
I can almost smell it.
I know, I'm getting hungry. Let's look at the language we learnt during the conversation. We had recipe, the instructions for cooking a particular food or meal.
Taste, which we use to describe the food we eat. For example, my chicken tastes amazing.
And Neil, you gave me instructions on how to make that delicious roast chicken, and you used the imperative. You said, put lemon, garlic, and herbs in the chicken, boil the potatoes, but not for too long, and add them to the dish.
That's it for this episode of Real Easy English. For more on the imperative and other grammar tips, try our podcast, Learning English Grammar. You can find it on your podcast app or by visiting our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
Next time, we'll talk more about our families and the jobs they do.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Georgie. How are you?
Yes, I'm also very well, thank you. What are we talking about in this episode?
Well, today we're talking more about jobs. We talked before in the podcast about some of the jobs we've done. Beth told us she had a job where she looked after goats. But today we're going to talk about the jobs our families and friends do.
Sounds good. So, Neil, what jobs do your parents do?
Well, my parents are retired. That means they don't work anymore because they are too old. But my dad worked in a bank and my mum had lots of different jobs, but her last job was a counsellor.
Neil, you said your mum was a counsellor. What is a counsellor?
A counsellor is somebody who talks to people who have problems and they need to discuss or talk about their problems to help them get better.
Okay, so she's probably quite kind.
She's good at listening to people, I think.
Okay. Well, my dad is also retired, but my mum still works. She works as an estate agent. That's someone who works with houses. She sells and rents houses for people.
Okay, so did your mum have any other jobs before she was an estate agent?
Yes, she did. When she first started working, she worked as a nurse. So that's someone who works in a hospital. And she also sometimes works as a hairdresser because she has curly hair. So she does this treatment to make her hair straighter, and she does it for other people as well. Neil, do you have any friends or family that have some other interesting jobs?
Well, my sister is a teacher. She teaches in schools. My wife is a florist.
Wow, what's a florist?
A florist is somebody who makes designs with flowers for events like weddings, funerals, parties, and that kind of thing.
Oh, wow. So she must be quite creative then.
Yes, she is. She loves making things look nice. She's good at it.
Oh, that's nice.
Georgie, what is your dream job? What job would you love to do?
Well, I really like this job that we have, but my dream job is a travel photographer because I really like traveling and I really like taking photos. So that's a great combination, I think, for a job. What about you?
Oh, I would definitely be a professional sportsman of some kind.
Okay.
Or a rock star.
Okay. Do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I play guitar. I'm probably slightly better at guitar than I am at football or cricket. Definitely not professional standard.
Let's look at some of the vocabulary about jobs we learned during the conversation. We've had nurse, someone who assists doctors and helps patients in hospitals.
We heard estate agent, someone who sells or rents houses and flats.
Retired, someone who stops working, usually because of their age.
We had counsellor, someone who talks to people who have problems to help them feel better.
And florist, someone who creates designs with flowers and sells them.
Thanks for listening to Real Easy English.